The silence in the command hall felt heavy as Admiral Torax watched the blue planet grow larger on the display screens. 3 full cycles had passed since the automated messages began flooding every communication channel his fleet possessed. The words repeated in over 400 different galactic languages, all saying the same thing. This system was restricted. Approach was not authorized. Lethal force would be used. Torax had spent 30 years crushing resistance across the galaxy. He had seen warning systems before. They were always the same. Weak civilizations trying to seem strong. Primitive species who thought a few threatening words could stop the inevitable march of the Draxian Empire. This would be no different. Admiral, the warnings are increasing in frequency. The voice belonged to Petries, a young officer who had joined the fleet only 2 seasons ago. The boy was talented with analysis but lacked the hardened perspective that came with real conquest. They are now broadcasting on emergency channels as well. Let them waste their energy. Torax did not look away from the blue world. Intelligence reports painted a clear picture. The species called humans had barely left their own planet. A few scattered outposts on their moon. Some primitive probes sent to nearby rocks in their system. They possessed no faster-than-light travel, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. How many systems have we integrated into the Empire, Petries? 47 in the last decade, Admiral. And how many of those systems warned us away? Petries hesitated. 32, sir. Exactly. Torax finally turned to face his bridge crew. 200 warships formed the fleet behind his flagship, Eternal Dominion. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level a continent. Fear makes species irrational. They threaten because they have nothing else. Once they see our strength, they submit. It is the natural order. Chancellor Vorum stepped forward from his observation position. The political overseer had been assigned to this mission by the imperial court itself. His presence meant the emperor wanted results, not excuses. The council grows impatient, Admiral. This system contains 3 habitable worlds and mineral resources beyond measure. We must establish control quickly. We are ahead of schedule, Chancellor. Torax gestured to the tactical display. We have already passed the outer gas giant without incident. Their warnings mean nothing. Sir, another officer spoke up from the sensor station. We are detecting unusual readings near the rings of the 6th planet. Unusual how? Power signatures, hundreds of them. They were not there during our initial scans. Torax frowned. Clarify. It appears to be some form of installation. No, multiple installations. They are activating across the entire ring system, now detecting similar signatures on the moons as well, and in the asteroid fields between the 4th and 5th planets. A chill ran through the command hall. Torax moved to the sensor station and examined the data himself. The readings made no sense. Their long-range scans had shown nothing. The system had appeared almost empty except for the inner planets, yet now thousands of energy signatures blazed across their sensors. Stealth technology, Petries suggested quietly. Impossible. Torax refused to accept it. Our sensors can detect a single ship at 10 light-years distance. No primitive species could hide entire installations from us. The communication officer suddenly straightened. Admiral, the warning message has changed. Play it. A human voice filled the command hall. The translation matrix made it sound flat and emotionless. Final notice. You have entered the outer defensive perimeter of the Sol system. Turn your vessels around and leave immediately. This is your last opportunity to comply. Vorum laughed. Defensive perimeter. Admiral, please proceed at full speed. The Emperor will not accept delays because of empty threats from a backward species. Torax wanted to agree. Every instinct told him this was another bluff. Yet something about the cold certainty in that human voice troubled him. And those sensor readings. Thousands of installations that had simply appeared from nowhere. Sir, we are now passing the orbital path of the 5th planet. the navigation officer reported, maintaining formation and speed. All ships to battle readiness, Torex decided. Shields to maximum, weapons charged. If they want to test us, let them learn the price of resistance. The fleet responded instantly. Shields flared to life around every vessel. Weapons ports opened like the eyes of hunting beasts. The Draxian Empire had perfected the art of overwhelming force. They would show these humans what real power looked like. Admiral, incoming transmission from the third planet. Let me hear it. This time the human voice came through clearly. It belonged to someone at a place called Luna Base. We told you to leave. You chose otherwise. We will now demonstrate why our warning should have been taken seriously. Torex opened his mouth to respond. The words never came. His tactical display erupted in chaos. Ship after ship vanished from the formation, not destroyed slowly in visible combat, simply gone, erased from existence in flashes of light too quick to comprehend. The flagship shuddered as something massive streaked past, close enough to trigger proximity alarms but moving too fast for sensors to track. Report! Torex shouted over the sudden noise of alarms and shouted orders. We have lost 83 ships, Admiral. No, 91, still counting. The tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. I cannot identify the weapon signatures. They are not matching any known technology in our databases. On the screens, Torex watched his fleet die. Small craft appeared from nowhere, moving at speeds that should have torn them apart. They fired weapons that left no visible trace until Draxian warships exploded. The asteroids they had dismissed as space debris suddenly revealed themselves as camouflaged weapons platforms. Even the ice chunks orbiting the gas giants seemed to contain hidden threats. Return fire, all ships engage. But there was nothing to engage. The enemy refused to present targets. They struck from impossible angles and vanished before weapons could lock on. Every moon seemed to hide launch bays. Every piece of orbital debris could be a missile in waiting. In less than 10 minutes, the Draxian Empire lost half its fleet to an enemy they could barely see. Petri stood frozen at his station, watching the destruction with wide eyes. They fortified their entire system. The whole thing is a weapon. Torex realized the horrible truth. These humans had not been bluffing. They had been warning. There was a difference. A crucial difference he had failed to understand until it was too late. The communication channel opened again, that same calm human voice. You now have 120 ships remaining. We can destroy them all in the next 5 minutes, or you can accept our terms. Land on Earth. Surrender. Live. Choose quickly. For the first time in his career, Admiral Torex gave an order he never thought he would speak. Signal all ships. We accept their terms. The descent through Earth's atmosphere felt nothing like a military operation. It felt like a funeral procession. The remaining Draxian ships followed precise coordinates transmitted by human controllers, their weapon systems locked down by technology the Empire did not understand. Torex sat in his command chair and watched a civilization he had underestimated guide his shattered fleet like children being led to punishment. We are approaching the designated landing zone, Petries reported, his voice barely above a whisper. The young officer had not spoken much since the battle. None of them had. What was there to say? They had watched their companions vanish like morning mist under the sun. Quick, clean, absolute. The viewing screens showed a vast red desert stretching to the horizon. Australia, the humans called it. No cities visible. No obvious military installations. Just endless empty land under a pale blue sky. Yet Torex knew better now. Empty meant nothing. Those asteroids had looked empty too. Sir, I am detecting underground structures. The sensor officer had finally stopped shaking enough to do his job. Massive complexes beneath the landing zone. Power signatures indicate they extend for kilometers in every direction. Of course they did. These humans built everything in layers. Hide the weapon until needed. Torax understood now why intelligence had failed so completely. Human deception operated on principles the Empire had never encountered. They did not just hide their military assets. They made them invisible until the exact moment of violence. The ships touched down with gentle precision. Human guidance systems had controlled the final approach entirely. The Draxian pilots had merely watched their own controls move under external command. Another reminder of who held power here. All personnel will disembark in an orderly manner. The human transmission came through clearly. Leave weapons aboard your vessels. You will be processed individually. Resistance will be met with immediate neutralization. Compliance will be rewarded with proper treatment under our protocols for prisoners of war. Vorum stood from his seat, face red with barely contained rage. This is unacceptable. I am a chancellor of the Draxian Empire. I demand to speak with whoever commands this farce. Chancellor, Torax spoke quietly. We lost, accept it. We were ambushed, tricked. This was not a fair engagement. They warned us, Petri said, looking directly at Vorum for the first time since the battle. Repeatedly, in 400 languages, we chose not to listen. Before Vorum could respond, the exterior hatches opened. Human soldiers entered the ship moving with practiced efficiency. They wore armor that seemed both lightweight and impossibly strong. Their weapons stayed lowered but ready. Each movement suggested training so thorough it had become instinct. The lead soldier removed her helmet. A woman with gray hair and calm eyes that had clearly seen combat before. I am Colonel Hayes. You will follow my personnel to the processing center. Your wounded will receive medical attention. Your dead will be treated with respect. Your cooperation will determine how comfortable your stay becomes. How long do you intend to hold us? Torax asked. Hayes studied him for a moment. That depends on many factors, Admiral. Whether your empire seeks revenge, whether you personally prove useful in preventing future conflicts, whether the galaxy learns the right lessons from your mistake. She gestured toward the exit. For now, you will come with us. The processing took hours. The Draxians were separated into groups, officers in one direction, enlisted personnel in another, medical cases to field hospitals that appeared far more advanced than their own. Vorum protested every step and was eventually sedated for his own safety. Torax did not resist. He answered questions honestly and watched everything. The humans operated with terrifying efficiency. They knew Draxian anatomy well enough to provide appropriate medical care. They knew military ranks and command structures. They knew which questions to ask and which answers mattered. This was not improvised. This was planned, rehearsed, perfected through preparation. You have been studying us, Torax said to Hayes as she personally escorted him to a secure facility. For 20 years, she confirmed without hesitation. We detected your empire's expansion pattern 2 decades ago. We calculated a 73% probability you would eventually reach our system. We prepared accordingly. 20 years of preparation for an enemy that might never come. Hayes stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Admiral, humanity learned a hard lesson in our history. We almost destroyed ourselves, multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. We survived by the smallest of margins. After that, we made a choice. Never again would we be unprepared. Never again would we be vulnerable. Never again would we hope enemies would leave us alone instead of ensuring they could not harm us. She resumed walking. Torax followed, processing her words. So you built your entire solar system into a fortress. We built it into a message you clearly received even if it came too late. Hayes led him into a comfortable room, not a cell, actual quarters with a bed, desk, and viewing screen. You will stay here. Meals will be provided. You will be interviewed extensively over the coming weeks. Cooperation is expected. And if I refuse? Then you will stay here anyway, just with less pleasant accommodations and no opportunity to influence what happens next. Hayes moved toward the door. We are not cruel, Admiral. We simply cannot afford to be weak. Your empire will send diplomats eventually. When they do, the information you provide will help determine whether we negotiate or escalate. Escalate how? Hayes paused in the doorway. Our stealth ships are currently orbiting your homeworld. They have been there for 6 weeks, undetected. We can strike your capital, your shipyards, your colonial administration centers whenever we choose. Your sensors will never see us coming, just like you never saw us in your own system. She met his eyes. We do not want war, Admiral, but we are very, very good at it. Help us avoid one. The door closed softly. Torax sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. 30 years of conquest, 47 systems, hundreds of battles, all of it rendered meaningless in 10 minutes of combat against a species the Empire had dismissed as primitive. His communications panel chimed. Petrie's appeared on the screen from another room. Admiral, they are treating us well. The guards are professional. The facilities are clean. Have you spoken with them? Yes. Torax looked at the young officer. Petrie's, write down everything you observe, every detail, every conversation. When the Empire sends for us, they will need to understand what we face here. You think they will negotiate? I think they have no choice. These humans can end the Empire whenever they want. Our only hope is that they meant what they said. They do not want war. Torax stood and moved to the window. Outside, human aircraft crossed the sky in precise formations. They simply refused to lose one. 3 weeks passed in what the humans called protective custody. Torax learned more about Earth in those weeks than his intelligence services had discovered in years of observation. The learning came whether he wanted it or not. Every meal arrived with news broadcasts. Every interview included historical context. The humans wanted him to understand. They needed him to understand. General Ruth Williams entered his quarters without announcement. She carried a data pad and wore the expression of someone who had made difficult decisions and accepted their weight. Admiral Torax, you are being transferred to a different facility today. For what purpose? Education. Williams sat across from him without asking permission. Military to military. Your empire will send diplomats within the month. When they arrive, you will brief them. The information you provide will shape their response. We want to ensure that information is accurate. You mean you want to control what I tell them? We want you to tell them the truth. Williams activated the data pad and turned it toward him. This is Earth 500 years ago. Watch. The display showed cities burning, weapons of terrible power reducing populations to ash, towers of smoke rising from battlefields where millions died for causes Torax could barely comprehend. The scale of destruction shocked him. These humans had done this to themselves, not to conquered enemies, to their own species. We call it the final war, Williams explained. 3 billion dead in 5 years, our planet poisoned, our future uncertain. We survived, but barely. Every nation involved swore it would never happen again. She changed the display to show massive construction projects, cities rebuilt, weapons dismantled. We kept that promise for 50 years. Then our telescopes detected ships moving between stars. The display showed crude recordings of Draxian vessels, early Empire scouts exploring uncharted systems 300 years ago. We realized we were not alone, and we realized that our petty conflicts meant nothing compared to the threat of hostile species discovering our world. So you unified, Torax said quietly. Every government, every military, every research facility, all focused on a single goal: survive first contact with aliens. Williams stood and gestured for him to follow. Come, there is something you need to see. They walked through corridors lined with human soldiers who studied Torax with open curiosity. Some looked angry, others merely observant. None looked afraid. That bothered him more than hostility would have. These humans had seen his fleet destroyed and felt no lingering fear of Draxian power. Williams led him to a massive underground chamber. The space stretched far beyond what seemed possible, carved deep into the Earth itself. Torax stared at production lines building ships, weapons, armor, all of it humming with activity. Thousands of humans working in coordinated precision. "This is Facility 7, Williams said. "One of 43 manufacturing centers across our system. We build here. We build on Mars. We build in hollowed asteroids. We build on moons you never even scanned." She walked along an observation platform. "Every year for 2 centuries, 10% of human economic output has gone to defense, not for conquest, for survival. This is impossible. Our intelligence showed you as barely space-capable." "Your intelligence showed you what we wanted you to see." Williams smiled without humor. "We learned early that the best defense is being underestimated. We sent primitive probes to nearby rocks. We kept our major installations hidden. We broadcast simple radio signals that made us seem backward, all while building the most fortified system in this region of space." Torax watched a ship take shape below. Its design principles were foreign, graceful curves hiding brutal purpose. "How many ships do you have?" "Enough." Williams would not give specifics. "What matters is that we have enough to defend our home and our allies. We are not an empire, Admiral. We do not seek to conquer, but we will not be conquered either." They moved to another section. This one showed weapons testing. Missiles that moved faster than Draxian sensors could track. Energy weapons that cut through shields like paper. Autonomous drones that operated in swarms too numerous to counter. Torax felt his professional understanding crumble with each demonstration. "You could have destroyed us completely," he said. "Why accept our surrender?" "Because we are not you." Williams stopped walking and faced him fully. "We know what happens when strong civilizations crush weaker ones. We studied your empire's history. 47 systems integrated. Billions of people forced into submission. Cultures erased. Resources stripped. We will not allow that to continue." "You plan to attack the empire." "We plan to change it," Williams corrected. "Your diplomats are already preparing to arrive. They have seen what happened to your fleet. They know we have ships orbiting your homeworld. They understand we can end the empire in days if we choose, but we are offering a different path." "What path?" "Reformation. Your empire stops expanding, begins releasing systems that want independence, transitions to voluntary association instead of forced submission. In exchange, we guarantee your security and share defensive technology." Torax laughed bitterly. "The Emperor will never agree. The Empire is built on strength and conquest." "Then the Empire will fall." Williams said it calmly, as simple fact. "We have already made contact with resistance groups across Draxian space. We have offered them support, weapons, training, intelligence. If your Emperor chooses pride over survival, we will help your subjects choose freedom." The weight of it settled on Torax like a physical burden. These humans had planned every step. They did not simply defend. They had created a strategy to dismantle an empire without firing another shot, all through the threat of overwhelming force combined with support for internal rebellion. "You said I would brief the diplomats," Torax said slowly. "What exactly do you want me to tell them?" "The truth, that Earth is not weak, that our warnings were not bluffs, that we have the capability to destroy the Empire but prefer to see it evolve." Williams started walking again. "You spent 30 years conquering. You understand military realities. Make them understand that fighting us is suicide. Make them understand that cooperation is their only path forward." They returned to his quarters. Williams paused before leaving. "I know this is difficult, Admiral. You built your career on expansion. Now you must help prevent it, but consider this. How many billions died in wars you waged? How many cultures were lost? If you help end that cycle, perhaps your legacy becomes something other than destruction." The door closed. Torex sat in silence for a long time. Through his window, he could see human civilians going about their lives, children playing, people working, normal existence continuing while their military held an empire at gunpoint. Petres contacted him an hour later. "Admiral, I have been given access to their historical archives, their military academy textbooks. They want us to study how they think." "Then study," Torex ordered. "Learn everything you can, document it all. The Empire needs to understand what it faces." "Do you think they will listen?" Torex considered the question. 20 years of human preparation, 2 centuries of fortification, an entire species united in refusal to be vulnerable. "They will listen, Petres, because the alternative is extinction." The Draxian diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel at the exact coordinates Earth had transmitted. Every weapon system aboard remained powered down per human demands. Any deviation would trigger an immediate response from the stealth ships they knew surrounded them but could not detect. Ambassador Krell had reviewed the tactical reports 17 times during the journey. Each reading made the situation clearer and more hopeless. Sensors confirmed 6 human vessels in escort positions. His tactical officer reported, "They are not attempting to hide this time." "They do not need to hide," Krell said quietly. "They have already proven their capability. This is about showing us they choose when to be visible." The humans guided them to a station orbiting Earth's moon. Luna Station was massive, bristling with weapons ports and defensive emplacements that tracked the Draxian ship with mechanical precision. Through the viewing ports, Krell could see human warships moving in perfectly coordinated patrols. Everything about this place screamed military readiness wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Admiral Torex waited in the docking bay. He looked thinner than his official portraits, older. The defeat had marked him in ways physical scars never could. Behind him stood General Williams and a delegation of human officials who carried themselves with quiet confidence. "Ambassador Krell," Torex offered a proper military salute. "Welcome to Earth." "Admiral," Krell returned the gesture, "I am relieved to see you alive." "They have been remarkably civilized captors." Torex glanced at Williams. "Firm, absolute, but not cruel. They want you to understand something important. They are not monsters. They are simply prepared." Williams stepped forward. "Ambassador, welcome to Luna Station. We have prepared quarters for your delegation. You will have access to communication with your government. We hope this negotiation can be concluded quickly and peacefully." "As do we, General." Krell studied the human carefully. Military bearing, controlled aggression, a predator offering temporary truce. Though I suspect our definitions of peace may differ. "Perhaps shall we discuss terms?" The negotiation chamber was designed to impress. Windows showing Earth in its full glory below, displays presenting tactical data that should have remained classified. Human confidence made physical. Krell took his seat across from Williams and her team. Torex sat to one side, neither prisoner nor colleague, something in between. "We have demands," Krell began, trying to establish some position of strength. "You are in no position to demand anything," Williams interrupted calmly, "but we are willing to hear requests." Krell bristled but controlled himself. "The immediate return of our personnel and vessels." "Your personnel will be returned after this negotiation concludes successfully. Your vessels have been destroyed. We will provide transport home." Williams slid a data pad across the table. "These are our terms. Read them carefully." Krell reviewed the document. Each line drove home how completely the situation had shifted. The Empire would cease all expansion, begin supervised withdrawal from systems that voted for independence, submit to human inspection of military facilities, accept human observers in government councils. The terms were not negotiation points. They were surrender conditions dressed in diplomatic language. "This is the end of the Empire," Krell said. "This is the evolution of the Empire," Williams corrected. You can become a federation of willing partners. You can transition to cooperative association. You can survive and potentially thrive. Or you can refuse and be dismantled through internal rebellion. We will support and external pressure we will apply. The Emperor will never agree. Williams activated a wall display. It showed Draxian space from an external perspective. Red markers indicated human ships' positions. There were dozens of them scattered across the Empire, watching, waiting. Your Emperor has very little choice, Ambassador. We can strike your infrastructure whenever we choose. We can arm your dissidents. We can broadcast the truth of this defeat across every system you control. She paused. Or your Emperor can be remembered as the leader who transformed an empire built on conquest into a coalition built on cooperation. Krell looked at Torax. Is what she says accurate? Can they truly do all of this? Yes, Torax answered without hesitation. I have seen their capabilities, their production, their planning. Ambassador, they have been preparing for this scenario for 200 years. We walked into a trap that was set before our grandparents were born. Why reveal themselves now? Krell demanded. Why not stay hidden? Because hiding serves no purpose once someone triggers the trap, Williams said. Your fleet entered our space. We eliminated the threat. Now we are ensuring it does not happen again while offering a path forward that does not require endless violence. A human aide entered and whispered something to Williams. She nodded and turned back to Krell. Your Emperor is requesting direct communication. We have prepared a secure channel. You may speak with him privately for 1 hour. We recommend you explain the reality of the situation clearly. Krell was led to a private chamber. The holocom activated, showing Emperor Draxus himself, looking older than his public appearances suggested. The weight of empire showed in every line of his face. Ambassador, explain this disaster. Your Majesty, we underestimated them catastrophically. Their entire solar system is a weapons platform. They have technology decades beyond our own. They have ships throughout our space that we cannot detect, and they have the will to use all of it. Krell took a breath. We must accept their terms. We are the Draxian Empire. We have conquered 47 systems. We do not surrender to primitives who barely achieved space flight. They are not primitives, Your Majesty. That was our mistake. They appeared primitive because they wanted us to underestimate them. In reality, they have been preparing for this exact scenario since before the Empire even reached this region of space. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. What do you recommend? Accept the terms. Transition the Empire to a voluntary federation. Release systems that want independence. Focus on trade and cooperation instead of conquest. Krell met his Emperor's eyes. Your Majesty, we can survive this, but only if we adapt. And if I refuse? Then the Empire will be destroyed from within and without. They have already contacted our subject worlds. They have offered support to independence movements. If you force conflict, they will arm and train every rebellion across our space while striking our military infrastructure directly. We cannot win this war. Emperor Draxus looked away from the camera. When he spoke again, his voice carried the exhaustion of a leader facing impossible choices. Arrange a formal meeting. I will speak with these humans directly, but prepare our propaganda services. This defeat must be framed carefully to maintain stability. Your Majesty, they have footage of the battle. They have recordings of everything. Any lies will be exposed immediately. Then we tell the truth, the Emperor said bitterly, that we encountered a species more prepared for war than we were, that continued conflict serves no one, that the Empire evolves to survive. He paused. History will judge us harshly for this. History will judge us alive, Krell replied. That is what matters. The connection ended. Krell returned to the negotiation chamber where Williams waited patiently. The Emperor will speak with you directly within 3 days. He is considering your terms. Good. While we wait, you will tour our facilities. You will see exactly what you are dealing with. You will understand that our terms are generous given our capabilities." William stood. "Ambassador, we do not hate your people. We simply will not allow conquest to continue. Help your emperor understand that cooperation offers a better future than conflict." Krell looked at the displays showing human military might, at Torax who had witnessed it firsthand, at the blue planet below where a species had nearly destroyed itself and emerged stronger. "I will do my best, General, for all our sakes." Emperor Draxus materialized in the holocom chamber as a full-scale projection. The technology was human, far clearer and more stable than Draxian systems. Even their communication methods proved superior. He stood in a recreation of the Imperial throne room, surrounded by advisors who existed only as light and data. Across from him, General Williams sat in a simple chair with no ceremony or pageantry. The contrast spoke volumes. "Emperor Draxus." Williams greeted him with a slight nod, not a bow, not subservience, professional acknowledgement between equals. "Thank you for agreeing to speak directly." "General Williams, I have reviewed your terms. They are unacceptable." Draxus kept his voice steady despite the anger burning beneath. "You ask us to dismantle everything the Empire has built over 3 centuries. We ask you to transform what the Empire has built into something sustainable," Williams corrected. "Your current model requires constant expansion, constant conquest. Eventually, you would have encountered a species that could stop you. You simply encountered us first. You speak of stopping us, yet you destroyed only 1 fleet. The Empire commands thousands of ships across dozens of systems." Williams activated a display between them. It showed Draxian space with red markers scattered throughout. "These are human stealth vessels currently monitoring your infrastructure. 147 ships, each positioned near critical facilities, shipyards, command stations, resource processing centers, communications hubs." She zoomed in on the Imperial capital. 17 ships orbit your homeworld right now, Emperor. You cannot detect them. Your sensors show empty space. We could cripple your entire government before your military even knew we had struck." Draxus felt cold spread through him. "You would massacre billions. We would strike military and government targets with precision weapons designed to minimize civilian casualties." Williams met his eyes. "But we would prefer to strike nothing at all. That is why we are talking." One of the Emperor's advisors, General Thorne, spoke up. "Your forces may have advantages in stealth and surprise. In open battle, Draxian might would crush you." Williams smiled without warmth. "General Thorne, your fleet at the outer reaches has 48 capital ships. We have been tracking them for 6 months. Ship names, captain names, weapons loadouts, crew rotations, supply schedules. Would you like me to tell you what Admiral Renth had for his last meal? Because we know everything." The room fell silent. Draxus studied this human who spoke with such absolute confidence. She was not bluffing. Nothing in her manner suggested doubt or exaggeration. These humans had infiltrated Draxian space so completely that they possessed operational intelligence the Empire's own commanders would envy. "What do you want from us?" Draxus asked, dropping pretense. "Your true objective." "We want you to stop," Williams said simply. "Stop conquering. Stop forcing integration. Stop building an empire on the suffering of subjugated peoples. Transform into a federation where systems choose to participate, where cooperation comes from mutual benefit, not military threat. And if we agree to these terms, you will simply trust us to comply. We will verify. Human observers will monitor your government and military. We will maintain relationships with systems currently under your control. If you break the agreement, we will know immediately and respond accordingly." Williams leaned forward. "But Emperor, consider what we are offering. We could destroy the Empire entirely. Support every independence movement. Arm every rebellion. Watch your territory fracture into chaos. Instead, we are offering you a path to survive with dignity. To be remembered as the Emperor who evolved the Empire, rather than the emperor who lost it. Draxus was quiet for a long moment. Centuries of tradition pressed down on him. The empire was his legacy, his responsibility, but what legacy was worth extinction? You have clearly studied our culture, General. You know that strength is everything to us. How do I convince my people that surrender is strength? You do not call it surrender, you call it strategic evolution. A new voice joined the conversation. A human in civilian clothing appeared in the holocom. Emperor Draxus, I am Dr. Alan Chen. I study civilizations and their transitions. May I speak plainly? Draxus nodded, curious despite himself. Every successful civilization reaches a point where its founding principles become obstacles to survival. Rome could not conquer forever. The Mongol Empire could not sustain endless expansion. Your empire has reached that threshold. You can either recognize it and adapt, or you can resist and fracture. Chen pulled up historical data. We can help you craft a narrative that preserves Draxian pride while embracing change. Frame it as the empire reaching such dominance that conquest is no longer necessary, that you are secure enough to transition to cooperative partnership. Propaganda, Draxus said. Statecraft, Chen corrected. Every government shapes how citizens understand policy. We are simply offering to help you shape this in a way that maintains stability while implementing necessary changes. Draxus looked at his advisors. They showed varying degrees of anger, fear, and resignation. General Thorne looked ready to argue for war. Chancellor Bryn appeared thoughtful. Admiral Torax, present via connection from Earth, simply looked tired. Admiral Torax, Draxus addressed him directly. You have been on Earth for over a month. You have seen their capabilities firsthand. Speak honestly. Can we win a war against them? Torax took a long breath. No, Your Majesty, we cannot. Even if we match them ship to ship, which we do not, they have strategic advantages we cannot overcome. They have had 2 centuries to prepare. We had 3 days. They know our systems better than we know theirs. They can strike anywhere at any time. And most importantly, they have already contacted resistance groups across our territory. If we fight them, we fight both an external enemy with superior technology and internal rebellions with human support. He paused. Your Majesty, I have served the Empire for 30 years. I have never recommended surrender. But this is not surrender. This is survival. Draxus stood and walked through the holographic throne room, though his real body remained light years away. What guarantees do I have that Earth will honor its commitments, that you will not simply conquer us under different terms? You have our word, William said, and you have observable reality. If we wanted conquest, we could have taken it already. We do not want your territory. We want our security. Your empire expanding toward our space threatened that security. Remove the threat and we have no quarrel with you. Your word, Draxus laughed bitterly. The word of a species we met only weeks ago. The word of a species that warned you clearly and repeatedly before defending itself. The word of a species offering generous terms instead of total destruction. The word of a species that treats its prisoners well and seeks diplomatic solutions. William stood. Emperor, you have 3 days to decide. Accept our terms and begin the transition to a voluntary federation, or refuse and face the consequences. Choose wisely. The holocom ended. Draxus stood in his real throne room, surrounded by physical advisors who waited for his decision. Chancellor Bryn spoke first. Your Majesty, we must consider the practical realities. If even half of what they claim is true, we cannot afford conflict. We cannot afford to appear weak, General Thorne countered. We already appear weak, Draxus said quietly. Our fleet was destroyed. Our space is infiltrated. Our subjects know we are vulnerable. The question is not whether we look weak. The question is whether we survive looking weak or die pretending to be strong. He returned to his throne and sat heavily. The weight of empire had never felt heavier. Prepare official acceptance of Earth's terms. Begin drafting transition plans for converting forced integration to voluntary federation. Contact the systems most likely to seek independence and negotiate graceful withdrawals. He looked at each advisor. The Empire changes today. Make sure history remembers that we chose to evolve rather than waiting to be destroyed. 3 days later, Emperor Draxus and General Williams signed the Accord of Saul. The Draxian Empire began its transformation. Some systems immediately voted for independence and received it peacefully. Others chose to remain, finding that voluntary cooperation offered benefits conquest never had. And throughout Draxian space, the red markers of human stealth ships maintained their silent watch, ensuring compliance through visible absence. The galaxy had changed, and Earth had changed it without firing another shot. 8 months after the Accord of Saul, the galaxy looked different. Admiral Torax stood on the observation deck of Luna Station watching ships move between Earth and Mars in constant traffic. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, construction transports. The humans had opened their system to carefully vetted visitors from across known space. The fortress remained, but now it welcomed guests instead of destroying invaders. Strange, is it not? Petres joined him at the window. The young officer had chosen to stay on Earth as a liaison between the reformed Draxian Federation and humanity. 8 months ago we came here to conquer. Now we come to learn. Everything changed, Torax agreed. The Empire, us, the galaxy's understanding of what humanity represents. Below them in the docking bay, a Draxian educational vessel arrived. Students from the military academy coming to study human tactics and strategy. What had destroyed their fleet was now being taught to prevent future conflicts. The irony was not lost on Torax. General Williams approached from behind. Admiral, Officer Petres, I wanted to inform you personally. The first edition of the updated military doctrine has been published. Petres, your contributions were invaluable. Petres had spent 6 months writing a comprehensive analysis of the battle and its lessons. The document was now required reading in both human and Draxian military academies. His work bore a simple title that had become famous across multiple species: When Warnings Should Be Heeded. I simply documented what happened, General, Petres said modestly. You documented why it happened. That is more important. Williams gestured toward the window. Do you see that ship arriving now? It carries representatives from the Kelthian aggregate. They heard about Earth through Draxian channels. They want to establish diplomatic relations. The Kelthians were on our expansion list, Torax noted. We had planned to integrate them within 5 years. Now they will remain independent, under Earth's mutual defense agreements. Williams smiled slightly. We are building something new, Admiral, not an empire, a coalition. Systems that choose cooperation because it benefits them, protected by those who value their independence. The Solar Coalition had grown to 32 systems in 8 months. Each member maintained sovereignty. Each contributed to collective defense. Each received human military technology for defensive purposes only. The offensive weapons remained exclusively human, a safeguard against the coalition itself becoming an empire. Chancellor Vorum escaped custody last month, Petres mentioned. Intelligence reports suggest he is attempting to organize resistance to the reforms. We are aware. Williams did not seem concerned. He has gathered perhaps 200 loyalists. They pose no real threat. The Emperor has offered him amnesty if he returns peacefully. If not, well, the new Draxian Federation security forces are quite capable of handling internal dissidents. Torax thought about Vorum. The Chancellor had never accepted defeat, never understood that the galaxy had moved past conquest as a viable strategy. Men like him would fade into history as their philosophy became obsolete. The Federation is not what I spent my career building, but perhaps it is better. Different, certainly, Williams said. Come, there is something I want to show you both. They followed her to a secure section of the station. past checkpoints where human and Draxian guards worked side by side, past laboratories where scientists from 6 different species collaborated on research projects. Finally, to a room containing a massive display showing the local galactic region. This is the current map, Williams explained. Blue represents the Solar Coalition. Green shows the reformed Draxian Federation. Yellow indicates independent systems under mutual defense agreements. Red shows remaining imperial powers that have not yet reformed. Torax studied the map. Only 3 red zones remained, all smaller than the Draxian Empire had been, all now very aware of Earth's capabilities. You have remade this entire region in less than a year. We demonstrated that conquest was no longer viable. Other species adjusted accordingly. Williams zoomed the display. But our work is far from finished. There are species out there we have not contacted, powers we have not encountered. The galaxy is large and we are still learning our place in it. You could conquer them all, Petrie said quietly. With your technology and strategy, nothing could stop you. We could try, Williams agreed. And eventually we would encounter a species that stopped us, or we would become what we fought against, or we would overextend and collapse like every empire in history. She turned to face them. We learned hard lessons, gentlemen. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We chose survival over pride. We chose preparation over hope. And when we had the power to dominate, we chose cooperation instead. Because domination always fails eventually. Cooperation can last. An aide entered with a message tablet. Williams read it and nodded. The Emperor is arriving tomorrow for the Coalition Summit. Admiral, he has requested that you be present at the proceedings. As a witness to his humiliation, Torax asked without bitterness. As evidence of his wisdom, you were there when the Empire fell. You are here as it transforms into something better. Your presence reminds everyone that evolution is possible. Williams moved toward the door. The summit will establish formal protocols for conflict resolution, trade agreements, and collective security. 73 systems will be represented. The galaxy is learning to talk instead of fight. You helped make that possible. After Williams left, Torax and Petries remained looking at the map. Do you regret it? Petries asked. 30 years of service to an empire that no longer exists. I regret the suffering I caused in those 30 years, the systems conquered, the cultures disrupted, the people who died resisting. Torax was quiet for a moment. But I do not regret what happened here. We needed to be stopped. Better it happened against an enemy that offered mercy than one that would have simply destroyed us. What will you do when this assignment ends? The Emperor has asked me to command the Federation Defense Forces, not for conquest, for protection of our systems and support of coalition partners. Torax smiled slightly. Strange career path for an admiral, from conqueror to protector. They walked back through the station corridors. Everywhere, species mixed and cooperated. Humans helping Draxian engineers understand new technology. Kelthian diplomats sharing cultural information with Earth scholars. Former enemies becoming partners through mutual interest rather than mutual fear. In the docking bay, Torax paused to watch the Academy ship complete its mooring procedures. Young Draxians would learn human tactics. Human students studied aboard Draxian vessels, learning their perspective. Cross-cultural military education building understanding alongside capability. The galaxy talks about us, you know, Petrie said. About what happened here. Some species call humans the galaxy's protectors. Others call them the galaxy's warning. Do not threaten Earth. Do not ignore their broadcasts. Do not test their patience. Both are accurate, Torax replied. They protect those who cooperate, they warn those who threaten, and they demonstrate both with equal effectiveness. A new ship appeared on approach vectors. The vessel bore markings Torax did not recognize. Unknown species, unknown intentions. But as it neared the defensive perimeter, it broadcast standard peaceful greetings and requested permission to establish contact. The humans granted approach and assigned an escort. Another species learns the right way to meet humanity, Petries observed. Because they saw what happened to those who learned the wrong way. Torex watched the escort ships guide the newcomer safely through the defensive grid. We were clearly warned. We entered anyway. That will be our legacy. The empire that ignored warnings and learned why warnings exist. Could be worse legacies. Indeed, Torex turned from the window. We could be remembered as the empire that was destroyed. Instead, we are remembered as the empire that was reformed. I will accept that. Years later, when new species encountered Earth's warning systems, they found detailed records freely shared across the galaxy. The battle, the surrender, the transformation, the Accord of Sol and everything that followed. Every species that approached Sol received the same message the Draxians had ignored. This system is restricted, approach unauthorized, lethal force authorized. But now they also received context, historical records, diplomatic channels, peaceful contact procedures, the option to heed the warning and begin dialogue rather than test defenses and face destruction. Most chose dialogue. Those who did not learn the same lesson the Draxian Empire had learned. The hard way. The only way some species could learn. And afterwards, they too joined the growing coalition of species that understood a simple truth. When Earth warned you, you listened. When Earth offered partnership, you accepted. When Earth drew a line, you respected it. Not from fear alone, though fear played its role, but from understanding that cooperation offered more than conquest ever could. The galaxy had been clearly warned. Now the galaxy clearly understood, and the warnings continued broadcasting, eternal and absolute, protecting both Earth and the peace it had fought to establish. Some warnings, the galaxy finally learned, existed for everyone's benefit.